All four.
On the Beatles creatively was transcendental meditation. John and Paul
Yoko,
did the biggest output of their songs
Yoko,
when they were
Yoko,
at
Yoko.
the Maharishis Ashram
Beatles,
in Rishikesh.
Beatles,
I think we've got
Beatles.
over 30 or 40 songs over there in a very short time.
Beatles attended his memorial service at the New London Synagogue, close to the Abbey Road studios.
Well, Brian was really the man who brought them to international prominence, but some of the things he did proved disastrous, and the Beatles ended up, at the end of a decade of being the world's top group, with not much money. The recording deal he did with EMI, I think they got a halfpenny a record, and that lasted for a lot of years, so they were getting really a pittance of selling these millions of records, while the Rolling Stones in decade got a much more favourable deal and got far larger royalties.
When it came into the big league merchandising that surrounded the Beatles during the height of the Beatlemania years, yes, it is true that opportunities were not seized in the way that they should have done.
The Beatles lost $100 million worth of merchandising in America right at the peak time.
With Brian gone, the Beatles launched their new business empire, Apple Corps. Number 3 Savile Row became its eventual headquarters. With film, fashion and recording divisions, they described it as a capitalist communist enterprise.
What they'd originally wanted was to create an atmosphere for creative people and develop other talents away from what they call the men in suits who'd taken all the money in taxes and all these accountants and lawyers and all the rest of that. They didn't really like them. But they had a great vision of what they wanted to do. And here again, once again, the Beatles were trying to do something which may have worked.
Early in 1968, the Beatles flew to Rishikesh in India to resume their studies in transcendental meditation with their Maharishi.
Really, the biggest influence, I think, on the Beatles creatively was transcendental meditation. John and Paul
Yoko,
did the biggest output of their songs
Yoko,
when they were
Yoko,
at
Yoko.
the Maharishis Ashram
Beatles,
in Rishikesh.
Beatles,
I think we've got
Beatles.
over 30 or 40 songs over there in a very short time.
Yoko, Yoko, Yoko.
George and John.
Beatles, Beatles, Beatles. Yoko, Yoko, Yoko. Beatles, Beatles, Beatles. Yoko, Yoko,
First
Yoko.
casualty was the Apple boutique, which
Beatles,
collapsed
Beatles,
after 8 months.
Beatles. Yoko, Yoko, Yoko.
The remaining stock
Hey,
was
would
given
you
away.
be my monkey man?
Excellent hands
I
of
will
people.
be your
And this is
monkey
why,
man
because the
too.
Beatles didn't actually run out. They just put the money in, and then they paid the money, and it was dripping out from the
Hey,
side.
won't you be
The
my
Beatles'
monkey
increasingly
man?
outlandish behavior
I
required
will
remedies.
be your
Warning, they were
monkey
no longer
man too.
This view of the Beatles is turning from cuddly toy I was to say where I got it from, you know, it's illegal and everything. It's silly to say that.
Don't you believe that this was a matter which you should have kept private?
But the thing is, you know, that I was asked a question by a newspaper. And the decision was whether to tell a lie or to tell him the truth, you know. I decided to tell him the truth. But I really didn't want to say anything, you know, because if I had my decision, you know, if I had it my way, I wouldn't have told anyone, you know, because I'm not trying to spread the word about this. But the man from the newspaper is the man from the mass medium, you know. I'll keep it a personal thing. If he does too, you know, if he keeps it quiet. But he wanted to spread it, so it's his responsibility, you know, for spreading it, not mine.
But you're a public figure, and you said...
This is the Surgeon General for time. This means you're legally quality.
I'm telling the truth, you know. I don't know what everyone's so angry about.
This is the Surgeon General for time. This means you're legally quality.
Drugs just because I did, you know. But the thing is, that's not the point anyway, you know, whether I had or not. And then from then on, the whole bit about how far it's going to go, many people it's going to encourage, is up to the newspapers, you know, on television.
This is the Surgeon General for time. You're legal quality. Always legally insane.
I'll be honest, you know.
A public figure, surely you've got responsibility to lots and
No,
lots
it's
of
you've got the
teenagers.
responsibility. You've got the responsibility to spread this now. I'm quite prepared to do a very personal thing, if you will too. If you'll shout it, I will.
The Beatles, who were immune for a long time, the Rolling Stones got arrested in early 1967 for drugs. The Beatles, who used as much drugs as the Rolling Stones, or maybe a bit less, I don't think anybody could use as much drugs as the Rolling Stones. John Lennon was arrested for drugs in the autumn of 1968, and so was George Harrison at the same time. They were no longer immune. The fact that they had MBEs didn't make them immune any longer.
In November 1966, in this quiet backwater of London, John Lennon attended an avant-garde art exhibition held at this building by a Japanese artist from New
You
York.
have selected Microsoft STEM as the computer's default voice. Many people would like to spread peanut butter on Paul.
Love affair with the Beatles, and the end of John Lennon's working relationship with the rest of the group.
The big thing that did occur was that Lennon took Yoko Ono into recording sessions with the Beatles. So previously it had just been the four of them and no girlfriends had come in or wives had come in for any. It was a boys' club. In bringing Yoko Ono into the studio, John Lennon made it clear that it wasn't a boys' club anymore. The boys were becoming...
Ono suppressed John's creativity and imposed her own ideas on him.
Can you describe your new act together? What is Howling?
An expression that's not so intellectualized as words, you know. It's just like...
pure sound.
Show me
pure sound. Well, anything. Ah, wow, that's Howling.
You know, something like that.
Quite frankly, people weren't really interested in that, but John he felt because people didn't like Yoko's input, that they were insulting her, and through insulting her, they were insulting him. So he dug...
Socialite. Does this mean you'll be spending much of your time in New York?
Linda.
In London.
In London. Paul, what about you? How do you feel being the father of a 6-year-old? You'll be living in London. How about being the father to a 6-year-old child?
It's terrible. It's terrible. I hate it. I hate it. It's going to be a terrible burden. I do. It's horrible. Yeah. You're on the telly. You're on the telly. Quick.
As if in reaction, John and Yoko married 8 days later and honeymooned in Amsterdam. They lived in a public affair. Their bed-in was a demonstration for world peace.
We're thinking that instead of going out and fight and make war or something like that, we should just stay in bed. Everybody should just stay in bed and enjoy the spring, you know.
Opinion has remained divided on why the Beatles broke up.
The blame for the breaking up of the Beatles is very often laid at the feet of Yoko Ono and Linda Eastman. But in fact, I don't really think that their arrival on the scene caused any disbanding at all. From the end of 1966 onwards, it's evident on the recordings that they made that increasingly John was going his way, Paul was going his way. They still went into the recording studios calling themselves the Beatles, but by and large, instead of 4 guys arriving for a session, it would be John taking his material in and bringing Paul and the others into it, and Paul keeping his stuff to himself and bringing the others into it.
The Beatles performed in public for the last time in January 1969. In an impromptu concert on the rooftop of their Apple headquarters in Mayfair, they played for 42 minutes before the police intervened. Their music had stopped the traffic. But that brief harmony was short-lived. New Yorker Alan Klein, Apple's controversial new business manager, was appointed, contrary to...
People you'd find it with artists, with fashion designers, with record producers, with writers. So many people in every aspect of life were influenced by the Beatles and said, I did that because of the Beatles.
As far as I'm concerned, they've contributed everything to pop music. I mean, they were the group that made me get into music in the first place.
I always felt that they were pop music, and they're kind of what everybody else is judged on.
And George is going to do one for you now. It's an old favorite, folks. It's one by Chuck Berry, and it's called Roll Over Beethoven.
Almost 30 years after the Beatles' last concert, the bootleg Beatles pack auditoriums around the world with audiences still in love with the Beatles and their music.
I think a lot of young kids that come and see us now just want to see what it was like.
And that's what we try and do. We try and capture the atmosphere, as well as the sound and the look, the atmosphere of the Beatles live.
They are directly influenced by the Beatles or not, is in a sense there because of the Beatles.
They basically defined what pop music is.
When told by the record companies or music publishers or television producers, that isn't the way we do it, we've never done it that way, they would simply say, well, why can't we? We'll do it that way, and they did.
They showed that you could be very successful with material that is very, very good, that you could play up to the market rather than play down.
So much of the landscape and fabric of popular culture today because
P6 9 I don't find existence, I know when it's time to guide the rolling stone.